If you had one shot or one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment, would you capture it or just let it slip? Yo. His palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already. Mom's spaghetti, he's nervous, but on the surface he looks calm and ready to drop bombs. But he keeps on forgetting what he wrote down. The whole crowd goes so loud, he opens his mouth, but the words won't come out. He's choking how? Everybody's choking now. The clock's run out, time's up, over, loud. Snap back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Oh, there goes gravity. Choke. He's so mad, but he won't give up. Daddies, he know he won't have it. He knows his whole back to these ropes. It don't matter, he's dope. He knows that, but he's broke. He's so stacked that he knows when he goes back to this mobile home, that's when it's back to the lab again, yo. This old rhapsody better go back to this moment and hope it don't pass him.
He failed. Listen, we can talk about the flag, but let's talk about the team. Wait.
And good morning, everybody. Welcome to Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media. We're live every day. Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. You know the drill. Smash that like button, share button, retweet button. That way you can all get involved with the great show here, Trending in the AM. We are talking a dominating, running rampant Sixers victory over the Raptors in Game 2. We're talking Phillies. Same old, even with a new lineup. Sixers in 4. These are the examples right here on the screen. If you want to get involved in the conversation, head over to our YouTube page. Hit the thumbs up and subscribe button. But also questions, comments, thoughts, anything on the Sixers' big victory last night in Game 2. Put them in the comment section there. We can answer them live on the air. We can discuss your thoughts, your opinions live on the air. I am Phil Stifle, your host at Bearded Knowledge, joined by my main man, Jason Voorhees at Mustang3651, who just reminded me that it's been a week since he's been on the show. Easter in the retail business. He wasn't able to come on much last week. But he's back this week, and he's ready. I mean, he's rocking that bright red Phillies hoodie. But, Jason, how you doing this morning?
Doing great, man. Had a great Easter weekend. I tweeted out a picture. I'm sure you saw it of me and my sisters, and it was a huge week for me. So very, very, very good weekend.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. It's all about family, right?
It is.
That's right.
Family first.
Family number one. That's right. So we got lots to talk about with the Sixers here. And I don't know which way to start the conversation, but the Sixers won last night 112-97. They were up by 30 at one point in this game. Complete and total domination again in Game 2. They started out actually a little cold. I think it was 8-0 the Raptors started out. They scored the first 8 points of the game. But after that, it was basically all Sixers the entire game. And I guess the way I want to start the conversation out isn't even, with the Sixers, Joel Embiid's dominant performance, Tyrese Maxey. I don't even want to start with that. We spent literally a week plus hyping up the Raptors, hyping up Nick Nurse and this great head coach that Nick Nurse is. But all Nick Nurse's coaching philosophy for this series is foul, 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 foul harder, maybe injure somebody, and then complain about all the foul calls. What the hell is Nick Nurse doing? Does Nick Nurse not have any answer? I mean, we did see the little exchange at the end of the game between Joel Embiid and Nick Nurse. He literally has no answer for Joel Embiid. So his answer is, we are going to hit him, bump him, slam him to the ground as many times and as hard as possible and hope we just wear him down. And maybe by games like 5, 6, and 7, we have a shot at winning. Is that what you see? Because that's what I see right now. I hype this guy up as a major threat, way better than Doc Rivers. And on paper, he is. But, man, his game plan is completely insane.
I can't disagree with you, Phil, honestly. I look at coaching to a certain extent. I think it does have a bearing on how a series will go. But let's be fair. There's not too many teams out there that have an answer for Joel Embiid. So maybe, just maybe, this is like Nick Nurse trying to think outside of the box to the only way that you could possibly maybe stop or slow down the team, because you're not going to stop Embiid. It's obvious now. I mean, even yesterday, like, obviously we had the scare at the end of the game where everyone thought he was hurt.
A couple scares in the last night.
Yeah.
There were quite a few moments. I mean, there was early in the game. I mean, at first in game speed, it looked like Patrick Siakam had slammed onto the ground. It was just a hard hip check when he went down. He had his ankle all wrapped up at the end of the first half. Excuse me. And then obviously Matisse Thybulle trying to become the biggest villain in Philadelphia by trying to dislocate his, elbow. But man, I mean, the hard fouls. I mean, everybody talks about Joel Embiid and how dirty of a player he is, which he's not. He's just 7'2", 285 pounds. Things just seem a little bit more forceful. I saw an interesting tweet last night, and it was saying Joel Embiid and Shaquille O'Neal are pretty much the same player in the sense of how teams have to guard them. Hit them hard, foul them a lot, etc. The only difference is Joel Embiid knocks down 80+% of his free throws. Shaq was a 50, 55% free throw shooter. So that's why, that's why that everybody's making such a big deal about what happens with Joel Embiid now when no one made a big deal about Shaq. Shaq got hit and slammed and bounced and hip checked, and you look at Shaq. I mean, now he's in great physical condition again. He's learned to manage his health really well. But after Shaq got done playing, Shaq could barely stand up at points because he was so battered and so bruised from a career in the NBA, and how teams just there is no answer for Shaq. There is no answer for Joel, and the only way to answer is to play rough, is to play tough, and to beat the hell out of him. And I kind of think it's unfair to an extent where, the way they're game planning around Joel Embiid could put the rest of our playoff run in jeopardy. If one of these hard hits lands Joel the wrong way, he's done. And it's kind of scary.
I mean, once again, you're not wrong. I think, obviously Joel Embiid is this team's going to go as Joel takes them. But I will say I'm very, very, very pleasantly surprised at how well the supporting cast has stepped up in the first two games. I mean, obviously I didn't get to talk about game one and Tyrese Maxey. I mean, all I could say there is stud.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can look at – you don't even have to look at game one. You can look at last night. Joel Embiid had 19 of his 31 in the first quarter. Maxey had 0. Maxey put up 23 points. When it was crunch time, the ball wasn't going to James Harden's hand. The ball was going to Tyrese Maxey's hand.
Well, and that's kind of where I'm going with this. But it's not just Tyrese Maxey to me. It's Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris is like, he seems like he's a different player all of a sudden. And that's a great thing because let's face it, we were all like a little worried about Tobias.
We all worried. There's one guy that hosts a morning show Monday through Friday at 8:30 a.m. on ESPN Media that has never wavered in his support for Tobias Harris. I'm not pointing to you. I'm pointing to we'll point to
we know. We know
guy,
your love.
This guy loves his Tobias Harris.
But yeah, so I mean that, like I said, besides Phil Stifle, Beard of Knowledge, as everyone else knows him as, and Scotty, because Scotty really never.
Scotty's a Tobias fan as well. That is correct.
And listen. I'm not saying I was, because I wasn't bashing him, but what I'm saying is a lot of people were concerned, or maybe that's the wrong word, leery of how Tobias was kind of playing towards pretty much all season. But my point is he has come around when it counts. Like yesterday, he dropped 20 points at 38 minutes. I thought he had a spectacular game as far as being the fourth guy. Because let's face it, Maxey's kind of taken over as the third option, and realistically, Maxey's actually, to me, the second option because James Harden has kind of went backwards. So
absolutely, and let's not discount Tobias Harris's defense. The box score shows his defense was good, a plus 23, 3 blocks. But let's be honest. So the Raptors are a very athletic team. They got a lot of wings, a lot of 6'8", 6'9" guys that slash, that hit jump shot. This new age style basketball player, and it's a guy. They're guys that what we think of, or what most people think of Tobias Harris as, he shouldn't be able to guard these guys, and he is. I mean, Not perfectly, but he's doing a damn good job of keeping these guys in front of him, cutting off lanes, and just being active on defense. The 3 block shots just show how active his hands are on defense right now. Tobias Harris never gets enough credit. I mean, Tobias Harris is never going to be an all-pro defensive player. He never is. But if you look at where his defense was when he came here, back with Jimmy Butler back in the day, to where it is now, his defense, he has gone from a complete and total liability on defense to an average NBA defender, which it sounds weird saying an average NBA defender is really good, but that just shows growth and maturity from a guy like Tobias. So Tobias Harris has played phenomenally well on the defensive end, and no one's going to give him credit for it. They're going to talk about his shot. They're going to talk about him scoring and coming out of his offensive funk. But the defensive end, and it's almost like the confidence he's gaining on offense is translating into confidence on defense against, like I said, a team that he should not match up well against. Not at all, but he is.
Absolutely. And, like I said, I love Tobias Harris. I think he's where he needs to be. Like I said, when you tried to count on him as your number 2 guy, it's not going to work. And that's not a knock on the guy. Like, people are who they are. Everyone's has and that goes the same in any line of work. I mean, there's people that are good in certain roles. Like, there's certain people that are actually great assistant managers that never go on to being a good manager. That you put them in that role and they can't handle the stress. Same goes for the, like I said, players on this team. Mm-hmm. Tobias Harris, when he was looked at to be the guy, I don't want to say he cracked under pressure, but he couldn't handle it.
Right.
But now when you see what he's capable of when he doesn't have that stress, he's able to play his game. Mm-hmm. And his game is exactly what you said. It's shoot the basketball. He's playing a lot better defensively. Mm-hmm. He's making plays. He's supporting his teammates. Like, it's just all come together. And like I said, I'm so glad and thankful that he wasn't traded, because I think he's a big part of this team. He might not be the star, but he's important. And obviously you saw last night what he's capable of. Another guy that really surprised me, and we can get into the talk about the dunk, but how about
it's another guy that this person, I'm pointing to his name right here. I'm pointing to the person's name. One of the only people in the Philadelphia or entire country that said this guy was going to have an effective playoff run. I don't know. Can you see who I'm pointing to? Hold on. Let me get my finger closer to the screen so you can see who I'm pointing to.
Does it say Danny Green?
Yeah. My man, Danny Green.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, how many people were bashing Danny Green? Even
everybody but me.
The first, minute of the playoffs. And, obviously I'm not saying he's like being a world beater out here, but he did play 37 minutes. And
that's a lot for a 30. My wife was watching kind of half-ass watching the game last night while I was watching it. And she's like, "Yeah, man, the announcers are talking like he's old. How old is he?" I'm not sure, but he's older. I looked up, he's 34. If we make a deep run in June, later in the playoffs, he'll be 35 years old. He played 37 minutes as a 35-year-old man last night.
He's old on this team, and he's not old in the scheme of life.
In terms of basketball, not many basketball players make it to 35 years old.
Yeah, I mean, he's a veteran. And listen, like, let's face it, how many playoff teams, especially in basketball, have you saw in the last 25 years where, yes, they have, they're all built upon stars. We have the big threes on pretty much every team now. But there's always that role-playing veteran that has a huge impact on teams that are successful in the playoffs. And I'm not saying Danny Green is that guy, but I'm saying that he can be that guy, and he's showing it. It's showing out in the first beginning of the series.
We're going to call him the Green Ranger, okay? The Green Ranger has 3 NBA titles with 3 different teams. He's also played in 5 finals in his career. Don't discount the importance that has. And I said it last year. We weren't doing this morning show last year. But I was towards the end of my time with previous networks, multiple previous networks at that point, and I was talking about it. And I came on Scotty's show, and I said we would not have lost that Hawks series if Danny Green does not get injured. Danny Green gets injured, and all of a sudden, yes, Ben Simmons played awful, blah, blah, blah. But we still win that Hawks series if Danny Green's there.
Oh, I believe that.
And, so the whole Matisse situation, him not being able to play in Toronto, kind of is a blessing in disguise because Danny Green has been a bench guy this entire season. He's been playing 15 minutes a game, 20 minutes a game. He's rested. His legs are there. He hasn't been playing 35, 40 minutes a game. Now you can go out there and roll him out there 35 minutes a game in the playoffs. And honestly, I wouldn't even if we get past, I don't want to, Sixers in 4, sure. Sixers in 5, sure, whatever. I'm not saying that I would not, when we get to the next round of the playoffs, I would not put Matisse back in the starting lineup. You need a veteran guy like him that has been on multiple championship runs. Look, no offense to James Harden, never made the finals in his career. Joel Embiid still has not made the finals yet in his career. Tobias Harris has not made a finals yet in his career. I had to think for a second about that one. He's the only one with championship experience, him and Doc Rivers. So you need him on the court. You need that guy that's been there and done it. And, he's showing it.
Well,
he's showing it up big time right now.
I don't want to give you a big head, Phil.
Oh, my head's already big as hell. Between Tobias and Danny Green, head is this big right now.
Well, can I make your head a little bigger?
Sure.
I remember a moment on a previous show, it may have been last week, where you actually said that you thought the smart decision would be to play Danny Green in starting role even in the first couple games over Matisse.
Yeah, well, I was saying that more in the line of, because of you want to have the same continuity and same, team rolling out there to start every game. So you don't want to have one starting 5 for 2, then another starting 5 for the next 2. But yeah, it also had to go down to the fact that Danny Green is a playoff killer. I mean, honestly, let's be honest. He had a great game. He had a big monstrous dunk. He knocked down a couple threes. He didn't shoot the ball great last night. He was 4, 12, 3, and 9 from deep, whatever. But it's the other things he does. Everybody told me I was stupid after game 1. I was tweeting out, and I even talked on yesterday about it, that Danny Green had a really good game 1, even though he only scored 2 points. And he was 0 for 5 from deep. If you rewatch game 1, and the energy he brought on the defensive side, the constant motion he was in, that's important. When you have a young athletic team like the Raptors, the Sixers run a very slow half-court style, dribble the ball up, post up Joel, have some guys cutting, whatever, spot up 3 to whoever's open if you kick it out. The Raptors run and move and pass, and because that's just the type of team that they are. You need someone like Danny Green and Matisse, but Matisse he's dead to me right now. Danny Green is the kind of guy that will move all over the court and make sure he stays in front of every single person. And you saw that in game 1, and that was a little glimmer of hope. So you kind of saw in game 1, even though he was over, that game 2 there was potential for him. I love that they played him 37 minutes last night. I love the fact that he was out there on the court the entire time last night. That was great.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, I think my original prediction was Sixers in 5, not to be cliche, because I know that's what we've been saying for our.
No, we're not anymore. We're saying 6 and 4 now.
I'm still going to go Sixers in 5. I think the Raptors, pull out one game here. It's hard to go. It's hard to sweep the series in any league. I mean, and you could see that the Raptors. It's not that they're this untalented team that sucks. Right. Like they have talent. I agree. It's kind of been a little bit curious as to the approach with Nick Nurse, but then again, like I said, who realistically can stop Joel Embiid in this?
That's a great way to let's bring this back full circle. Joel Embiid had a very dominant first quarter. 19 of his how many points did he have last night? 31. 19 of his 31 in the first. He scored 0 in the second. And obviously very little in the second half in general. First, did you catch the fadeaway corner 3-point shot as time, dude? 7'2" centers don't hit fadeaway corner threes, and he just looks over at and then you see the image of the Raptors bench. You had Thad Young, and I forget who else was sitting. They're like, "That's what I gotta do. That's what I gotta stop." There ain't no stopping 7'2", 285-pound centers that can hit fadeaway corner 3-pointers as a shot clock buzzer is going off. That's insane. So that's insane right there. But you did see throughout the game, not just because he had to, come out at the end of the second quarter and, at points in the third and fourth, but you did start to see the hard fouls start to wear on Joel at times. Not just the limping and the shaking of his arm, but you could just see him. I don't want to say he was gasping for air, but he was fatigued for sure. Does the league say anything to the Raptors? Does the league say anything to the refs? Maybe even call even more. I know a lot of Raptors fans out there are complaining about the excessive free throw shots and all, but dude, they're not making ticky-tack fouls here. They're hard fouling every guy at every moment's notice. And Nick Nurse has flat out said that's his game plan. Foul. There's a guy. Yeah, hold on. I want to bring up, while I'm thinking of it, let me bring up the Raptors. This guy here, which one? Birch. They don't play centers. He's like their third string center. He was out there for 19 minutes just to draw fouls last night. And that's the game plan. Foul. Sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. So isn't this the classic, if you're going to live by the sword, you're going to die by the sword mentality? Because, honestly, hey, they can bitch all they want, but if you're fouling and we're making free throws, then you guys are idiots because we're going to keep making free throws. So if you keep fouling, that's what we're going to do. So stop with the crying. Stop with that nonsense that the Sixers are. No, you guys are the ones coming out with an attack mentality. What do you expect? I mean, let's be real. Call an ace an ace. Call a spade a spade.
It's all at the end of the game, the exchange between Nurse and Joel Embiid. And before we heard after the game what was said between them, it kind of looked like Joel, you couldn't see his mouth, but he said it kind of looked like you'd say, you can't stop me. And it looked like Nurse might have said, yeah, I know. But it turns out, it was something along the lines of Joel saying, what, all you could do to stop me is foul me overall. And I'm just going to keep making free throws. So stop complaining. And he's like, you're going to have to, because his game plan is not that the whole hack-a-shack kind of mentality, except the guy's making 80% of his free throws.
Yeah.
The problem that bothers me, though, is that something has to be done because we're going to lose. The NBA, some love Joel Embiid, some don't love Joel Embiid. The NBA as a whole will never want to validate the process. I know us Philly people always talk about that. They're going to always do everything they can to not validate the process, even though other teams, I said it last night, Oklahoma City Thunder are basically doing the process. The problem is they didn't give it a cool, catchy nickname that they can market to their fans and make money off of. That's their mistake for not doing it. The NBA will never do that. But if you look around the NBA right now, there's only 3 or 4 big ticket players that'll put butts in the seats, but also the TV rate, because you're never going to have a problem selling out a playoff game in the NBA. But you want people watching. Joel Embiid, Giannis, I guess Kevin Durant. They're your biggest 3 names, star power-wise. Tune in to love or to hate in the playoffs right now. And the NBA is not going to want to see Joel Embiid get hurt and not be on the court for a series, a couple games, whatever it is. So something's got to be done with, your game plan sucks. Your game plan is going to really legitimately hurt somebody. We can't have that. I don't know what the refs do. Maybe the NBA gets in the refs' ears and say maybe call some more flagrant fouls. Maybe make a statement early in the game. Let's say, 24 fouls from the Raptors last night. It's a lot of fouls. It's not like they weren't calling fouls against the Sixers. The Sixers had 18 fouls too. They were calling the fouls. 6 is not that big of a difference there in the grand scheme of things. Maybe they got to be firmer. I don't know. But the last thing I want to see is Joel Embiid get hurt. Now they play Wednesday night, and then they get several days off before Game 4 on Saturday night, which just sucks. I hate the NBA and the playoff schedule. It literally takes, the NFL season will be in the Super Bowl before the playoffs are. It's like 8 months just to get through the playoffs. It's insane. But based off of Nick Nurse's game plan, it actually might benefit us a little bit because of Joel being banged up so bad.
Yeah, I think you hit on a good point. Like the only concern is the fact that you don't want to lose any of our players to some stupid injury that could be I don't want to say avoided, but that we're not going to get if they're not having flagrant fouls against. So I agree that it is a concern, but I think it just shows you that if you have a team already coming out and knowing that that's how they're going to have to play the Sixers and foul, and we can show the league like, okay, well, if you foul us, it's just going to be worse. Mm-hmm. Realistically, that can get in other teams' heads. And I'm not saying like teams like the Bucks are going to be scared of the Sixers, but if basically what you're saying, it made me think of it. So, the Raptors know the only way to even compete is just to foul. That's like a defeatist mentality. Do the Raptors already know in their head that they're done? Have they already booked their tee times? Have they already planned their trips to Cabo San Lucas or something like that? Because that's what I'm thinking.
It's a very defeatist mentality, a very defeatist game plan right there.
Yeah, and that's what it appears to be to me. Like, as somebody that doesn't know basketball as much as you, obviously, I watch it. I've told you I've become a huge fan because of Joel. But I don't know the ins and outs. Like when people like talk about like certain terms, I might not know like, what it means, like the post up or this kind of stuff. I never played. But my point is that I am able to recognize talent, and you can see the mentality. If they're coming out like that, to me, it shows me that they're already scared. Like the Sixers are in their heads. Teams don't come out and play that way that believe that they are either on the same level or better. They're not going to come out like that. They're going to come out and play their game. And it seems to me that Toronto has totally come off the rails as far as they're not playing Toronto basketball. They're playing Hacka whatever. I mean, we used to make fun of the term Hacka Ben because teams did it. But when teams did Hacka Ben, they knew it worked. Like when you're hacking Embiid, you're doing it with the mentality of already knowing that Embiid shoots like 85% from the free throw line. Like it's almost like, it's like Russian roulette. Like, okay, well, if we foul him, he's going to score anyway. So I don't know. I just don't see how that. I'm not saying I don't understand the approach because I think that's where we're at with it. But I don't think anybody can stop Embiid to the point where it's almost like this is going to maybe become the template. Like, let's just foul the guy because maybe he'll get hurt. But I hate to say it like that, but
so interesting. I was going to wrap it up, but we got a guy. I didn't even know we had anybody watching on Twitch, but we got Smashing Oranges over on Twitch asking us, our thoughts on James Harden as a Sixer. And it's funny. So just God forbid, knock on wood as best you can. Joel Embiid goes down and has to miss a couple games. Can James Harden? I mean, James Harden looked okay in game one. Like he was just like Tobias Harris and Danny Green turned corner. And he looked again last night, slow and just not the same old James Harden. I still swear, James Harden is gonna go off in these playoffs. I thought maybe last night, maybe later in the series, he's gonna go off on old school 40-point James Harden type night. That's just my opinion. I still think he's got one or two in him, but I think it's safe to say that James Harden is not the James Harden of 5 years ago or 3 years ago. He's older. That hamstring has still got to be bothering him. I think he's just toughing it out right now. So what do I think of James Harden? I mean, we're better with James Harden than without James Harden. We're better with James Harden instead of Ben Simmons. I do the trade 1,000 times over, but James Harden is not who people think he is anymore. He's just a really good point guard, not a great point guard. Jason?
I mean, I'm kind of right there with you. I think a lot of people's problem is that in many people's minds, they were expecting the James Harden of old.
Right.
And listen, not that he's not capable of it, because I agree. I think he's actually going to go off too as well. I don't know if it's going to be in this series, but I think we will see a big game from him. But you can't discount what he's brought to this team as far as leadership, and it's showing. All you have to do is look at Tyrese Maxey and how he has just absolutely went off. Do you think that has nothing to do with James Harden? I think it has a lot to do and everything to do with James Harden.
Fantastic.
I think James Harden has shown him exactly how to play that position. And I think what James Harden is doing silently that many people aren't seeing on the stat line is that he's attracting attention, which is helping everybody else. And as you said, if Joel, God forbid, listen, I'm not saying it, but if he were to actually miss time, I think James Harden is a guy that's capable of putting up that crooked number. And I think you would see a different James Harden if it wasn't him and Embiid. If James Harden was having to be and called upon to be the guy, he would play differently. I think he's playing exactly what he came here to do, be that second guy and help this team win a championship. And that's why he's here.
Right.
You have to get past the blinders of everyone just looking at like, oh my God, he's not scoring 20 points. Oh my God, he doesn't have 10 rebounds. Oh my God, like he's not doing this. He's here exact for a reason. And it's to be that guy to help Joel. Joel is the leader. Joel is the best player on the team. We know that. Everybody knows that. The league knows it. The Raptors obviously know it.
We're not going to get into a why we hate Ben Simmons conversation right now. Sorry. I mean, we're past it.
I could care less about
we
25.
We moved on.
He's in the past.
We spent all this time. We didn't even talk too much about Tyrese Maxey, but we're going to stop. We're going to pause in the action. Everybody hang in there. We're going to switch over to Phillies here, but we got to pay a quick bill, quick commercial here, and we'll be right back, continuing this conversation. Trending in the AM on DSM Media. Stay tuned. What's up, everybody? Phil Stiefel here. Trending in the AM. Look at this site right here, 99jersey.com. Proud supporter of all Trending in the AM shows. Make sure you check them out. Like I said, 99jersey.com. They have the best jerseys of all your favorite athletes from high school, college, movies, TV shows. You got the Kobe Bryant, Lower Merion, the Charlie Conway, Mighty Ducks. Everybody always asks where I got my Sugar Shane Falco jersey back there from the Replacements movie. 99jersey.com. I mean, Magic Johnson, Michigan State, Lonzo Ball, Jalen Rose, you name it, Russell Westbrook, you name it, they've got it on this site. Make sure you check them out, 99jersey.com. Use promo code TRENDING at checkout. It gets you 15% off right away. 99jersey.com, promo code TRENDING. Yo, support the podcast that brings you the heat every single morning. And we are back right here on Trending in the AM. I am Phil Stiefel, your host, joined as always by my main man, Jason Voorhees. And Jason, before we get into the Phillies, I want to give you a little shout out, okay? And the gavel will rock. You and your man, Aaron, your new podcast. It's over on the Sports and Metal Podcast Network. And the gavel will rock. You guys debuted it on Friday night. It was excellent work. It went a little over my head. I won't lie. It was a Metallica album breakdown last show. And you went through like all the details of it. I did not know 99% of the topics that you were covering, but you guys did great work there. And I want to make sure I give you guys a shout out. So when are you guys going to do your next And the Gavel Will Rock podcast?
We don't have an exact date planned, but we will be dropping soon what it will be about, like whether, what band we're – because what it is basically we're debating either albums, but it could be also band lineups. So I'll give you an example. The example I always use is what's the better Van Halen, David Lee Roth or Sammy Hagar? So we could have that debate. It's not just pigeonholed to albums. So, or it could be, best eras, of a band, like, because obviously certain bands go through different eras. So it's any kind of debate.
I want to make sure if anybody is a Metallica fan, make sure you check out And the Gavel Will Rock. It's on Jason's page. It's on the Sports and Metal pages. And just Google search And the Gavel Will Rock. I'm sure it'll come right up for you guys.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks for the shout out. It means a lot.
No, it's all good. So let's move on. So we talked Sixers for the first half of the show. we got to talk Phillies. I know you got your red Phillies. We're going to our first Phillies game here very soon. Yeah, we're not worried. We're moving past. You know, you got in too late, my man. Got in too late. You got multiple. We had somebody on Twitch comment about Ben Simmons too. We're moving on. Past that. We're on to the Phillies now. You got to tune into the first half for the Sixers talk. Joe Girardi, Sleepy Joe. Before the game yesterday, we're like, all right. Bryson Stott and Alec Boehm in the lineup. Yay. Woo! Still got JT in the leadoff spot. You still got Bryce in the 2-hole, which I haven't seen you since last Tuesday on the show. So we haven't talked about Phillies and their woeful offense. But it doesn't matter what Joe Girardi does. Doesn't matter what lineup he throws out there. Last night we got 5 freaking hits in Colorado against Chad. Are we going to call him Cool? Is that how you say his name? The coolest guy on the mound was Chad Cool? I don't know. I'm trying to come up with some cheesy line. But, man. Hold on. This is a great comment then. Yes, we hate Joe. Hate Joe? Absolutely. Sleepy Joe. Sleepy Joe is not the nickname for our president. It's the nickname for our the manager of the Philadelphia Phillies. I mean, Jason, what do we do with the Phillies offense?
Yeah, so
you're like, I don't know.
Well, now, so here's where I'm at with this. We've talked, obviously, I haven't been on the show in a week. Last time I was on the show, we were facing the Mets, and obviously we had Aaron on, who my partner, and he's a Mets fan, so he was kind of gloating about how good the Mets are. And
right.
I think part of the issue right now is that we had such high expectations of this team. Like, we went out, we signed Kyle Schwarber, we signed Nick Castellanos. So coming into the season, our expectations were way up here because of the lineup that we had on paper and also how the lineup was performing in spring training. Now, here's where I'm at with this. Mm-hmm. It's only 11 games in. Now, it's easy for us to get overly upset and critical, and that's our job as fans. Like, we have it right because these guys are not performing. And it's absolutely on point to be a little bit annoyed and irate with how the team has played. I do put a lot of the blame on the manager because I think if you look at the lineup lately, it's been different every game. Now, I know Gene Segura was out a couple games. You know, he was hurt. But this mismanagement of this lineup is getting to the point where it's so frustrating. And I can't imagine how the players must feel. Like, let's just have a set lineup and lock it in and let these guys play. Because a lot of times, if you look at the Phillies, and this is one thing where I've said, it's easy for us to say, well, you know, why is Kyle Schwarber, you know, struggling, and why is he not doing anything? The Phillies lineup, if you look at every player on their lineup, almost 9 out of 10 guys are what I would consider streaky hitters. And when I say streaky, I mean guys that go into absolute major slumps at the plate for like 2 or 3 weeks at a time. And then guys that are also 3 weeks later come out and hit 350 and have 3 home runs and 20 RBIs. So when you have a lineup built that way, as a fan, I'm not saying it's fun, but it's almost like you have to expect this. Like, what did people expect when you signed Kyle Schwarber? He's not a guy that's going to hit 350 and hit 40 home runs. He's a guy that's going to hit maybe 230. Last year he hit 260, was his career high in an average. He's not a guy that's going to hit for 300. He's not. He's never done it in his career. He's not going to all of a sudden, as a Philly, learn how to do that.
Right.
Bryce Harper is doing exactly what he did last year. He didn't have a superstar first half of the season. His timing comes in the second half. He usually does a little bit better in April, but right now he's right on par for where he was last year, if you look. Same thing with JT Realmuto. Rhys Hoskins last year was non-existent in the beginning of the season. He's doing actually better than what he did last year. So what I'm getting at is if you look at the lineup, we're as a whole, we're looking at it as just saying, and we're pinpointing it as, man, this lineup sucks. What's going on? But it's 11 games.
Well, so it's 11 games. I see a lot of fans out there. Well, it's early, and people were hitting at me last night. Well, the 08 Phillies were 4-6, and the 09 Phillies were 4-7, and or whatever it was. Hey, great, super. But you do not win your division in April, but you can lose your division in April. Okay, but to your point with the streaky hitters, not only do we have I 100% agree with you. We've got way too many guys that go 3 weeks hot, 3 weeks cold, whatever it may be. We also have 7 guys that all should be hitting in the 3, 4, 5, and 6 hole. We don't have a table setter. We don't have a leadoff hitter. We said that from the beginning. There is no leadoff hitter. There's no guy, Gene Segura a little bit, that moves guys along. That 2 holes, that 7 hole type guy. You only got one in Gene Segura. So I mean, but you're smack on and dead right in the fact that the lineup is different every single night. Last night's game, the Phillies got 5 hits. I think they had 1 double. Didi Gregorius pinch hit double late in the game. That's it. I don't care. If Joe Girardi got fired this afternoon, the Phillies called me and said, "Hey Phil, you're in charge. You're the interim manager for the day." I'm running the exact same lineup that only got 5 hits out there again tonight. Because Bryson Stott and Alec Boehm, they need regular at bats. Because whether I like Bryce Harper in the 2 hole or not, if you're going to put him in the 2 hole, you better let him be in the whole 2 hole for 10 games straight, so he gets in the right mentality to be in that 2 hole. JT is not a leadoff hitter. But I'm going to keep him in the leadoff spot to see if he can get into a rhythm. You got to keep the lineup the same every single night. But what we know is going to happen, so Alec Boehm was lights out at the plate, just smacking the ball all over the place. He was getting pinch hits. Instead of putting him in the lineup, he kept trotting out other people. They put him in the lineup last night. He was over for Didi, got a pinch hit double. I guarantee Joe Girardi puts Didi back in the lineup tonight. He shouldn't. It should still be Stott at shortstop, Boehm at third base tonight, because you got to get these kids in a rhythm. But I guarantee Joe Girardi, Sleepy Joe, and his love affair with his veteran players will put Didi Gregorius back in the lineup tonight, which means either Stott or Boehm are back on the bench tonight, which is the wrong decision. And that's the problem. That you cannot get consistency as a hitter when you're in some days, out some days, when you're bouncing the 2 hole to the 7 hole, to the 1, to the 6, whatever it may be. I don't like the lineup from last night, how it was constructed, but if I am the manager of the Phillies, I am running out the same exact lineup, maybe 4 or 5 games straight, barring an injury. I'm just going to run it out there every single day. Because what do you got to lose? You can lose the division in April. You can't win it, but you can lose it. And you're going to put yourself in a position. We've got a couple more games against Colorado. Then we got this weekend against the Brewers, a really good team too. We can easily go on a run here where we've got only 5 or 6 wins in the entire month of April. That's not a good start. That's not a start with our pitching staff that you want to, have to come back from.
No, and I'm trying to pull something up here. So excuse me if I keep – see, I know a lot of people have been hating on me because I've been preaching and trying to solidify in people's minds, especially in the Philly market,
right,
how good the Mets are this year. And I know I've always the comeback is, well, the Mets are going to be the Mets. The Mets are going to be the Mets. And you know what? Maybe that's true. But what I'm going to tell you is if you look at the Mets lineup, for the most part, it's the same lineup every day. So that's the difference. You don't have a manager trying to change guys and put them in different spots in the leadoff spot or, in this spot. He trots out pretty much a similar lineup except like when guys are, taking a day off here and there. But what I will say with the Mets is what their lineup is doing differently than what the Phillies are doing. And if you look at how it's constructed, as I said, the Phillies lineup, in a sense, is flawed because you have almost every guy as a streaky type hitter. But you look at the Mets lineup, they might have 5 guys that can hit 40 home runs, but they have the one guy, Pete Alonso, who will hit 40 to 45. and do what he does, hit 260 and play really good. But their lineup is constructed on balance. They have guys that not only hit for average, but hit for power, and they do it consistently. They don't go in these long streaks. So you got guys like Starling Marte, who's a 5-tool player. Listen, when the Mets signed Starling Marte, I said, well, that's a pretty hefty contract. I don't know if I would have spent that much for a guy that's, starting to get a little bit older. But Starling Marte, like every year, is a guy that could be an MVP candidate. He puts up really studded numbers all the way across the board. The guy that I look at on the Mets that realistically could make them go from being, maybe just a little above average to actually being a World Series contender, if he does what he's capable of, is Francisco Lindor. Because just 2 years ago, Lindor was probably the second best shortstop in the league. And if you look at what he's doing, I get it, it's early. He's doing that. So I think our mindset as Phillies fans was, wow, we built this lineup. But like I said, this lineup is going to have highs and lows. So right now you're in a very big lull. And we are frustrated as fans because we're like, why are these guys not hitting? Well, the manager's not helping things, as you said, by switching the lineup every single day. Let it ride, put guys in, and let them get out of it. That's why I was annoyed that he took Kyle Schwarber out of the leadoff hole.
Yeah,
as bad as Schwarber has been, Schwarber showed last year that he's a great leadoff hitter. He does manage the count. Now, granted, he's struggling at the plate. But how do you get somebody out of struggling? Are you going to help him by putting him in the 6 hole or wherever you put him? No. Let the guy play and get out of the slump, because that's what's going to happen. It's April. It's still, I hate to say it and sound cliche, but it is still early. And you're right. You can't win a title in April, but you can surely lose it. And so far, the Mets are way ahead of us as far as where they're at as a team.
Talk about like Starling Marte going to the Mets, and Phillies fans originally wanted Starling Marte here. And you look at the Phillies and what they have to do with center field. Marte would look pretty good right now in center field, wouldn't he?
I mean, listen.
We're trotting Matt Vierling out there and his 130 average. Mazziotti, or however you say his name, as the backup. I brought it up yesterday with Mark. Bring it up again with you. The door is wide open right now. Wide open for one Mr. Odubel Herrera, who's going to probably – I would not be surprised if Friday night when we're at the game, he's in the starting lineup in center field. It's about the time – sometime this upcoming weekend, if not to the beginning of next week, he'll be back in the Phillies lineup. Because, we all know what Odubel Herrera is off the field. We also know what Odubel Herrera is on the field. He's a boneheaded guy. And – but he has had a track record in the past at some point. Matt Vierling has done absolutely nothing. The other kid, doesn't even belong. I mean, you tell me we don't have somebody better than Mazziotti or whatever that we could bring up right now?
Well, here's the problem, Phil. We just spent almost 20 minutes on the lineup. We haven't even talked about the pitching. And this is where I really look at this team, and I'm not going to say you told everybody so, because I said it too.
Right here.
But the Phillies starting pitching, the lineup is going to turn it on. The lineup, we know it's too good to be this way. It's not going to be this way forever. It's not. Because as I said, as bad as they go on streaks in the negative way, you're going to have that the positive way tenfold. Like, they're going to have times where they're just scoring 12 runs, in 3 games in a row. They're going to do it. It's coming. The pitching is where I'm a little not annoyed, and I'm definitely not surprised. But I looked at yesterday, and I'm like, man, maybe Aaron Nola could come out and just have a gem. What does he do? Another stinker.
I mean, he only gave up 2 runs. He was pitching half decent for 5 innings. Half decent. Gave up 1 home run ball. And you know what? I will give, Joe Girardi a smidge of credit. You could tell it was funny. The 6th inning was a 6th inning is right when the Sixers game ended. And that's when I flipped right over to the Phillies game. And you can start to see Aaron Nola was starting to get a little up in the zone. He was getting a little tired. And Joe Girardi at 80, you would think normally a guy 2 runs in the middle of the 6th inning, 80-some pitches, you're going to let him fight through that 6th inning. Joe Girardi pulled him out, and I think it was probably the right time to pull him out there. But again, Aaron Nola is what you guys don't think he is, but what I have been saying he is. He is a mediocre pitcher at best. I brought the stat last week. Well, now it's changed because he had his 81st start last night. But his last 80 starts before last night, and he's had 81 now, but from his 2018 season ending, so 19, 20, and 21, in the beginning of this year, he had 80 starts. He had a 4. Now I forget what the stat is. I forget what 4.28 ERA or something like that in his last. That's what he is. 80 starts is not a small sample size. 80 starts is what a sample size is supposed to be. He is average at best. Hey, did you see who retired last night? I didn't even know he didn't retire yet.
Jake Arrieta.
Jake Arrieta retired. Hell, you can bring out. We got a bunch of Jake Arrietas in our starting rotation right now. That's what we've got. Guys living off of past laurels or little blimps on the radar.
I mean, this is where, and I'm not saying I got in arguments, but like I saw quite a few people, bragging about, oh, well, Zach Eflin, if he comes back, if healthy, first of all, the big if. And secondly, like Zach Eflin, to me, what has he ever really done? What has he done? And that's my argument.
He's never done anything.
Exactly. And you're counting on him as your third starter? Like,
I've been trying to tell you guys, Zach Eflin, Zach Eflin and Vince Velasquez, they both had glimmers of hope in the beginning of their career. But for some reason, they both got 5 years to try to figure it out.
And this is the difference. And this is where, as a Phillies fan, I am most frustrated. Because while I am super excited that the Phillies have Bryson Stott and Alec Boehm, up on this team, and obviously Moniak before he got hurt, I'm super excited about that. But where you really get a dip and a real concern is the fact that the Phillies historically have not done a very good job at developing starting pitchers up through the ranks, through the system. You have Aaron Nola, who is perfect example. He's struggling right now to live up to that number 1 pick that he was taking, Bill. Okay. Well, you look at a team, and like I said, I hate, this is obviously not a Mets podcast, but we talk Phillies Mets a lot, and I use them as an example. The Mets lose Jake DeGrom, who's arguably the best pitcher of our generation. He's out for a long term. They bring up Tyler McGill. He's leading the major leagues in pitching right now. And that's what I mean. That's the difference. They're able to bring a guy up. They lose a guy that's their number 1, and they bring a guy up and don't miss a beat. The Phillies can't do that. The Phillies number 1 can't even pitch like a number 1 right now. Now, obviously, he was, very short spring, didn't even pitch in spring training. Zach Wheeler.
There's a lot of pitchers that had short spring training. So I don't like that excuse because there's a lot of guys that didn't get time, and there are a lot of guys that are pitching well. Look, you got Zach Wheeler. I'm not worried about Zach Wheeler's one bad outing. He looked really good in his first. I'm not worried about them. But we've talked about Nola. You got Kyle Gibson going tonight, who I've said it 1,000 times on this show, has more ERAs of over 5 than below 4. What do you expect? Do you expect him to be an ace? No. Zach Eflin, he's getting a longer leash than Vince Velasquez got. You got Ranger Suarez, had 12 starts in his career. People were anointing him the ace of the team. Guys, we don't need I know, we don't have the Chase Anderson and Matt Moore bad pitching staff, but it's not much better. It's not much better than the Jason Vargases of the world that we've brought in here. Dude, you talk about Boehm and Stott. We need these guys hit because we either need to trade Didi or we need to be able to package Stott or Boehm. We need pitching help on this team desperately. And I don't know who you're going to trade. I don't know if Mick Abel's anywhere near ready to come to the majors yet, but this team is in dire need of pitching. Dire need. I'm going to use that word, dire, of starting pitching. Who would have thought the bullpen would be carrying the pitching staff? It's insane.
Well, and that's the problem. And that's the problem with building your team and with a mentality that we're going to outscore everybody 12-6. Because if your offense goes into a slump like it is now,
Right.
you're not going to beat anybody because
No.
your pitching is not good enough to keep teams to like 2 or 3 runs. It's not right now.
No.
I mean, and I'm with you. Like, I wish to God that Didi would go on this super hot streak and like some team would want him. It's not going to happen. But like, the team is going to come around offensively. We know that. It's just hard to see it because
we also know the pitching staff's not going to
day to day. I agree, and that's where I'm at. Like, and we've been, dude, you and I have been saying it, but like a lot of people would like come in your mentions and be like, "No, wow, this team's still great." Well, they're not that great if you look at the record right now. They're not. And
Dude,
the problem,
you know what's insane? You know what's insane? I brought it up yesterday because it was the fact yesterday. We are 4-7. We are terrible right now. Okay. Last night, we were the favorite team, betting-wise. Tonight, we are favored again tonight. You got Kyle Gibson on the mound tonight for the Phillies, and we are the favorite. The Rockies are, what, like 7-3. We are 4-7. They got Kyle Freeland, who did not pitch well yet this year, but he's on the mound. And we are the favorite team again tonight. Yo, if Kyle Freeland, if we cannot wake our bats up against Kyle Freeland tonight, we got a problem. We got a problem. We're in Colorado. The ball travels in Coors Field or whatever it's called nowadays. If Kyle Freeland shuts us down, and you know what? It's funny. The second I turned the Phillies game on last night after the Sixers ended, you know, we talk about the Phillies' offensive slumps and stuff like that. A key thing, and we're wrapping up here in a few minutes. I don't want to dwell on it too long, but the T-Mac was saying in the game last night, you know, the starter pitcher last night for the Rockies, Mr. Cool, Mr. Joe Cool, Chad Cool actually, he had innings last night of 9 pitches, and 5 pitches. He got out of 3 innings with a total of 23 pitches thrown. That tells me these guys are going up there and swinging at the first pitch every single at bat. You're not going to wear a pitcher out if a pitcher gets out of an inning with 5 pitches thrown.
And do you know who I blame for that, Phil?
Sleepy Joe?
Absolutely. Like,
Absolutely.
He is on the hot seat. You want to talk about overreaction? That's not an overreaction.
That's not an
Joe
overreaction.
Girardi is the main reason why this team is not doing well right now. Joe Girardi.
Isn't our hitting coach some like legendary hitting coach? Didn't we bring in somebody that's won World Series? I forget his name, but the guy we brought in as our hitting coach this year is a great. And all of a sudden, our hitting stunk. No, the approach that Joe Girardi's got these guys. Unfortunately, the hitting coach will be the one that the hitting coach always gets fired first. They always do. When an offense is slump, you know, the manager isn't, you know, in trouble for that. The hitting coach is. But man, the approach at the plate from these guys, you know, is part of the problem with the offense. You cannot have 23 pitches over 3 innings. You just can't.
Listen,
That's
Bryce Harper needs to go back to the 3-hole. Castellanos belongs in the 4th hole.
Yes.
Schwarber needs to go up to the 1st hole.
Yes.
And I would put Real Muto 6, and I would put Segura as the 2. And I've been saying it.
I said at the beginning of the season that was my lineup.
And keep Bowman Stott in the lineup. That's how the lineup should be.
So
the lineup should be. I'm going to say the lineup what it should be. This is my lineup.
I agree with it. I don't even have to hear what it is. I know I agree with it.
Is going to be Kyle Schwarber leading off. Gene Segura batting 2nd. Bryce Harper batting 3rd. Nick Castellanos batting 4th. Reese Hoskins batting 5th. JT batting 6th. Boom 7th. Stott 8th. Bierling 9th. That's what the lineup should be. Set it in stone and lock it in and just play it. Let these guys play for a freaking week. Stop with the nonsense, Joe. Stop.
Sleepy Joe is firing up Jason early on a Tuesday morning.
Ah.
Yeah, it's not good, my friend. It's not good.
It's
so
frustrating.
Do they win tonight? The Phillies? Does 10 ERA Freeland wake the bats up tonight?
Yeah, they're gonna.
All eyes will be on them tonight because there's no Sixers game tonight.
Phillies will definitely win tonight.
1-0. 1-0, right?
No, I'm going to say 4-3. They're not going to score a lot of runs again.
Sure.
But Kyle Gibson on the mound, I think Kyle Gibson is what he is. He's average.
Yeah. He's going to go 6 innings tonight, and he's going to give up 4 runs, Kyle Gibson, tonight, because that's what he is.
I mean, listen, I think they win the game. I haven't been right on any of my score predictions because I've been going high every game, and every game they let me down because they're in this slump. But,
so you're just going to go opposite.
But as I said, the main reason is because Joe Girardi won't keep a consistent lineup. And it's just so
I agree that what you said the lineup should be. I know what you said the lineup should be, and I agree 100,000%.
It won't be.
But no, what the lineup should be is what it was last night. Just so that it's the same lineup. You know, if Joe Girardi really likes JT in that leadoff hot, you better just leave him there. You know, just have the same lineup 3 days in a row.
But
dude, all I can say is the Sixers better go to the NBA Finals. Because we need the Sixers to go into June playing basketball, because then that'll lead right to training camp. Because we are on pace right now for this Phillies season to be one long, grueling, frustrating season.
And how bad is that when coming into the season, like when we were doing the first day of, when we were all excited and we had the pregame, it was the first pregame show for DSM and everyone was just like all hype. And it's like,
I will end the show here. You know, John Middleton went over the luxury tax to bring in Nick Castellanos. That leash that Joe Girardi has is one hell of a lot shorter right now. He has gone over the luxury tax. That means he's going to win. I predicted 88 wins because I figured they'd be in contention at the trade deadline time frame, and they'll bring in a starting pitcher, go over it further. Well, Joe Girardi, if he's holding this team back even a little bit, Middleton, Dombrowski, they will get him. I don't know who will replace him. We started dabbling in that conversation yesterday. Maybe we'll bring it up again tomorrow. But, man, that leash is going to be really, really short on Joe Girardi. Middleton's not wasting that luxury tax money for another 81-win team. He's just not going to do it.
And that's not an overreaction.
No, it's not. All right. We're going to wrap it up right there, trending in the AM right here on DSM Media. We'll be back tomorrow morning, 8:30, as we are every single day. Myself, Phil Stifle, shoot me a follow at Bearded Knowledge. My main man, Jason Voorhees, will be back tomorrow as well at Mustang3651. Jason, have a fantastic day. Everybody watching, thanks for tuning in. Have a wonderful Tuesday. We'll be back tomorrow. Ready to roll. Oh, wrong sound effect.
Sixers in 5.
4. Sixers in 4, baby.
Sixers in 4.